These guys today have 20 million pet owners, paying them an average of $500 a year. So it's $10 billion volume business, and growing and profitable. And it's really one of the most impressive technology businesses from a unit economic standpoint that I've looked at in quite a while.
Attribution of ownership is the key to all this. If you're able to understand your customer, then you can sell them anything, right? And not only are we able to understand them, but we're able to predict what their next move is. We are building the network to scale globally. So we want to be the world's pet care provider.
This episode is brought to you by Polygon Labs. They're allowing developers to build any app on any chain using the most performant ZK tech in the industry. Design your own sovereign ZK chain using Polygon CDK, or launch a dApp on the Polygon POS or ZK EVM chains themselves. The best part? Anything you build in the AgLayer ecosystem will give you massive network effects from day one. Visit polygon.technology/grants to apply for funding today.
Very excited to have today on Proof Coverage Podcast, Carlos Herrera, the co-founder of one of the co-founders of Petastic. This is a decentralized identity network for pets and for animals that we've been lucky to be investors in now for maybe the better part of a year. Carlos, thanks for coming on today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
I love when we chat because you always have heartfelt stories about what you can build for pets. And I always have heartfelt stories about the unit economics of the pet industry. I was just looking through Chewy's last earnings call recently. It's crazy. They bought out $500 million of stock from a PE firm. They just announced another $300 million share buyback, doing $150 million free cash flow a quarter right now. For folks who aren't familiar, Chewy's started out as a box mailing, basically would send, subscription box that would send you your pet food and other accessories in 2013 or 14-ish timeframe. These guys today have 20 million pets, paying that, or 20 million pet owners, paying them an average of $500 a year. So it's $10 billion volume business, and growing and profitable. And it's really one of the most impressive technology businesses from a unit economic standpoint that I've looked at in quite a while. Curious, Carlos, how do you think about the economics of what Petastic can become? What's the size of the prize, or how do you, that's obviously a centralized company. You guys are building something different. When you're talking to investors, or just when you're trying to grok the vision of what Petastic can become in the very long term, how big do you see it?
Well, first of all, I think we all have kind of the same point of view that the pet industry is going to continue to expand. Given Chewy's stock buyback, I feel like they believe in that as well. They can attach different products and services. So, Chewy will continue to grow. I think the big challenge with a kind of traditional retail business, it really has to do with the efficiency of the unit economics. And I'll speak to that in a second. And also the multiples that you're receiving from the market. When it comes to Chewy, they've done a tremendous job of something that everyone thought was impossible. And I'm glad they were able to prove everyone wrong, because now we don't have to prove them wrong in the fact that you can ship pet food. When they first got started, they were laughed at oh, wow, you're going to ship pet foods, high density, high weight. No one's going to do that. And, 10 years down the line, everyone is doing it. So thank you for that. We know we can ship pet food. But, the thing that no one's cracked the nut on is this idea of being able to lower your cost per acquisition by, getting rid of the really expensive blocking and tackling required to segment down to actual pet owners with intent, right? In our network, the network knows who the pet owners are. We know what stage their pet is in. So intent is actually very, or quite obvious for us to predict, right? If your pet's going from puppy to adult, we know what sort of changes, or the network knows what sort of changes are required for your pet's care. And we can preempt all of this. And not to get into details of how the network is looking to predict at every step ahead, but that is at the core of what Petastic is doing. So from a unit economics perspective, I think we can be more efficient. So whereas, they're printing money, Chewy's printing money, I think we can print more of it. The other aspect is this idea of scale. Chewy is dominated in the US, but you look at Australia, you look at Pet Circle, you look at other countries who have a similar retail solution that are also doing quite well. It speaks to the fact that Chewy can scale globally. we are building the network to scale globally. So we want to be the world's pet care provider. That is by design one of our core initiatives as we engineer the system. So when we think of like our system, we engineered it to be completely different than what is out there. We're not trying to replicate what Chewy is doing from a business perspective. In terms of how they run their business, we're actually trying to change it all. So, whereas they're dealing with the corporate world, or we're dealing with the tokenized world, whereas they're trying to create shareholder value, we're trying to build token holder value. And what they are delivering at their scale in terms of free cash flow, we want to deliver to the network in revenue. So we are looking to take all of that value, optimize it, push it down into the pets network, and go from there. So we feel that if we're able to we take the natural economy, which is the pet industry, it's a natural ecosystem rather, and make it compatible with a crypto underwritten ecosystem that is tokenized, that we have the best of both worlds. So we're looking to optimize on every aspect of how pet care is delivered. So we feel that we look at the pet economy as in terms of lifetime value. So rather than looking at from an annualized perspective what type of revenue it's generating, we look at a 10-year life cycle. And right now, we calculate there's about $3 trillion in stored lifetime value in the pet industry. And to be honest, I think we can capture a large chunk of that. And when I say we, I mean the network. So as we head into, and as we execute on our roadmap, we're trying to activate pieces that capture more and more of this value that's already stored in the network. It's just a matter of capturing it. So I would say, from the beginning, we've been looking at this, not to build just a vertical feature for the pet industry, but to be the center of the spoked wheel that is the ecosystem of pet care. So, I think we can deliver a lot more value more efficiently. And I think we have the opportunity to be a dominant force worldwide. So that's something we're really focused on.
Absolutely. In terms of how you guys have gotten there so far, or plan to get there, y'all have in I think under a year, or maybe under like 9 or 10 months since launching the beta of the network, you have 1 million pets on board, doing what's equivalent to like a few $1 million of annualized sale. I mean, every pet is doing like $150 a month, I think, of sort of like spend, whether they're getting food or other types of accessories that they need through the network. What's been we get a lot of questions from T-Pin founders around like, how do you hack demand and supply and sort of like get things started? And you guys have been incredibly effective around that. So I'm curious if you can describe like how you're able to do that, and what's allowed you guys to sort of like do and learn about the user behavior, both on the shelter side and also on on the end user side in a very short period of time.
I think what's great about hackers in general, and the term hacking, is that hackers are experts, right? They actually know so much that they're able to game the system. And we've been lucky enough to have been in the pet industry for so long that we're now in a position to hack the system rather. So from the perspective of the pet industry, when it comes to pet care, we look at the funnel. The funnel is very unique in the pet world. You have organizations like shelters, rescues, folks who work to help them, like fosters. You have things like sanctuaries, which I didn't even know about until Petastic. And then you have breeders. These are this top of the funnel. They're the market makers. Without these organizations, the pet industry just doesn't exist. And what's interesting is like traditionally these folks have worked at an operational loss, meaning they lose money. They actually are able to supplement their losses by going out and fundraising. It's actually very sad in a way that the market makers for this huge industry are receiving nothing. They're actually losing money. And the reason for that is because the industry is broken. So first and foremost, what is out there now doesn't work for them. right? So when it comes to our go-to-market strategy, we would love to help these organizations. They're, from a business perspective, they're the top of the funnel. In my opinion, they're the most powerful force in the pet industry, and they're neglected and marginalized, and they're not being provided value at an equitable rate. So part of what we want to do with that top layer is be able to help them supplement what the time they're using to go fundraising by providing this perpetual recurring revenue source from each pet. Each pet, that they find a home for will live for 10, 15 years and will generate revenue for 10 or 15 years. So our network, as a rule, is going to take a portion of that revenue and give it back to the shelter. So we're closing the loop on something that is absolutely broken. Now, from a business perspective, that helps them. They're super happy. We to date, we haven't had an organization turn us down because we're fixing a real problem for them. Now, what that allows us to build is a very sticky relationship with the most powerful force in the pet industry. And from there, we're able to take pet identities, and as they transfer ownership from the organization to now a parent or a family, we're able to track the attribution of ownership. And what I just described there, this attribution of ownership, is the key to all this. If you're able to understand your customer, then you could sell them anything, right? And not only are we able to understand them, but we're able to predict what their next move is. So if you adopt a dog, we know, the network knows that you're going to need food, you're going to need pee pads, you're going to need toys, you're going to need tick and flea medicine, all these things we know you're going to need. So what we do is we present you with the opportunity to purchase these things before you even arrive. So this idea of being able to identify and track and predict in exchange for tokenized rewards is at the core of the hack, if you will. Now, we've been lucky enough to have been able to study the pet industry for so long, and from our board of directors down to the folks who are engineering and building the system, we all have this very clear understanding of the pet industry and what needs to happen in order to put the network in a perfect position to execute. So going down from the top of the funnel to the next layer of the funnel, down to the bottom of the funnel, which is the family, there's revenue opportunities at each layer. And they're actually all very similar, right? When you're looking at an organization like a shelter, they're going to buy pet food, they're going to buy pee pads, they're going to buy toys, etc. When you go down to the bottom of the funnel and you look at what folks are buying there, they're going to buy pet food, they're going to buy pee pads, they're going to buy toys. So what we've come to realize is that at every layer, you're actually, if we look at our customers from the pet's perspective, they're all very similar because they're all caring for the same type of animal. So efficiency down that stack is also something that has become very almost like a part of the hack in going about this, because now we're able to treat every paying customer the same, right? And all these things have led to efficiencies that lead to acceleration. So that, along with partnerships with some folks on our cap table that are large pet brands like Nestle, Purina, have allowed us to have access to large swaths of the pet population. So it's a combination of reasons as to why we're able to move quickly. Now, I feel like we're still moving too slow. And whereas 1 million sounds like a big number, it's actually a very tiny number when it comes to the world's pet population. So, getting the system to the point where we can accelerate and start making, relative impact, not only to the network's pet population, but also impact to our competitors' top line is what we want to achieve next year. We want to finally announce what it is we are as a community, and really start getting these corporations and people, organizations to take notice. So, we're ready now to achieve that, because we got the flywheel rolling slowly, but I think we can get it to roll downhill pretty quick.
Absolutely. One last question for you, Carlos, just to follow up on or double down on these, the sort of like future and vision on a 1 year time frame and on a 10-year time frame. Like what do you think people will see Petastic as?
I think the messaging horizon is something we think about very carefully. And right now we're purely speaking to new pet owners, right? So right now in the next 18 months, we're going to focus on new pet owners. After that, we're going to focus on existing pet owners, which make up a huge chunk of the pet population. So we're going to expand our focus. The messaging across the board is going to be around personalized pet care. Now, looking at this from a legacy perspective, and, as I mentioned, we've built the missing infrastructure, not just for pet care, but for animal welfare in general. We feel that in the long term, what we will achieve is to deploy a system that empowers humans to actually provide the love and support that they want to provide for animals in general across the world, in a very transparent way. I feel like animal welfare and pet welfare is our core mission for what this is going to look like long term. And to get there, we're just going to go feature by feature, segment by segment, activate communities, bring on other developers onto the network that are able to create other apps. And, 30 years from now, I hope to have hundreds of apps on the network, each providing value to different segments of the animal welfare space. And I count about 18 significant industries that the network can support. So that's where we want to end up, and we're deliberately engineering the system to get there. But first and foremost, we gotta get the cats and dogs to be happy. So we're starting there, focused on that. But our vision for this is big. We wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't enormous.
100%. That's why we're excited to be part of the team as well. Cool. Well, thank you, Carlos, for making time. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting about Petastic. Folks can find y'all at petastic.com. You guys have a really awesome explorer up at petastic.com/explorer for anyone wants to see sort of like the geographic split, what kind of species of pets you guys have on, and all the sales that are going through the platform already.
Thank you. And one more point. I would say before the end of this year, we will launch our first, what we call our first points campaign, where folks around the world will be able to onboard their pet and go through certain activities, which we call Know Your Pet, so that we can get you to provide value to the network in exchange for points. So that's something that we're going to be launching soon. So also follow us on Twitter at @GetPetastic, and we'll make an announcement there as to when those campaigns will launch.
Can't wait for it. Thank you, Carlos.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Proof of Coverage podcast. We post new episodes Mondays and Wednesdays, interviewing the best DePIN and crypto founders out there. If you like this episode, follow us on Twitter at CoverageProved and all other platforms, including YouTube and Spotify, at Proof of Coverage Podcast. Thank you.